Is it really the end of the year already? Where did 2021 go? One moment it's January and I'm taking down my Christmas lights. Next thing I know, my husband and I are putting them back up as we enter December. It is a great time to spread cheer and be with family as you look back on all you accomplished. Positives. Looking back, however, has reminded me of the real-life trauma I faced 10 years ago on Christmas Eve that even today still haunts me. Now, at the time, I was 28 years old, and I was 5 months pregnant with our first daughter. We lived in the butt middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, on some farmlands that never got any traffic. Neighbors are quite spread apart, and it's very rare you hear any humans, unless you actually drove into town. It's here there's a huge Walmart where you see pretty much everyone. Really a gathering spot, if you will, if it wasn't Sunday and we weren't at church. Speaking of church, my husband that evening, it being Christmas Eve, was at our local church's small festival they were holding in their parking lot, dressed up as Santa Claus, helping some of the locals give out gifts to families, as well as feeding them. Meanwhile, I was at home making food for when he would return. I remember specifically I was making his favorite, turkey dinner with some stuffing, mashed potatoes and gravy, and some apple pie. At around 9 p.m., my husband gave me a call and said he was on his way home and would be there in approximately 10 or so minutes. He also asked me if I could go ahead and unlock the back door so that he could just step in really quickly. It was raining that evening, and considering he didn't have an umbrella, he didn't want to get soaked, and possibly sick. Made sense. So I got up from the kitchen chair where I sat watching some YouTube videos, and I make my way over to unlock said door. Easy enough. Fast forward a few minutes and I head toward the restroom so that I could brush my teeth, seeing as I was about ready to head to bed anyways. I just needed to warm up my husband's food. Footsteps were soon heard coming from my kitchen, and part of me jumped for joy thinking, yay, hubby's back, and I don't have to be all alone. Mind you, I also heard the sound of a car door closing just outside my home moments prior. With teeth washed and hands cleaned with warm soap and water, I stepped into the hallway, where just a mere seconds later, it is made evident to me that something is clearly wrong. Who I heard enter my home wasn't my husband, not even something innocent like a neighbor's cat, or maybe even hopefully just the sound of the wind. No, in my house was not just one, but 2 home intruders, both dressed up in your traditional burglar's clothing, dressed in all black, with ski masks hiding their identity and expressions. I must have stood there for about a solid 3 seconds in pure fear, but they felt like an eternity as the 2 spot me and then start to give me commands. Come over here, and don't dare make any sudden movements or call the cops, one of them said. There was just something so hypnotic and calming about their voices that almost made me agree with them. However, I snapped out of it when I can see one of them clearly grasping a handgun, and it's now I make a beeline toward our bedroom. That felt like forever, but now I'm in my room. I feel a lot safer with this wooden barrier in between us. But what's to stop the 2 from breaking their way in? I nervously thought to myself, as I can feel my heart beat out of my chest, and sweat begin to fall down my cheeks. That was very possible. Open the door, or we'll shoot our way in. I can still clearly remember hearing one of them say, as I remember in that moment, the shotgun that's under our bed, fully loaded and ready to be used under emergencies just like this. If these 2 dared make their way into the bedroom, both would be dead in a matter of seconds, and I would have quite a lot of explaining to do to the police. Not that I really should have had to, considering these 2 were the ones who broke into my home, not vice versa. I guess I'm getting too ahead of myself, aren't I? Using the most intimidating voice I could muster up, I yell at the 2 that I have a loaded shotgun, and if they dare to try to break into my room, I would have no problem shooting in their direction. Thank God that by some miracle, those words resonated in their heads, because the kicking and knocking they do at my door soon comes to a halt. And then I heard them both whisper to one another. I don't exactly remember what they said specifically, since it was hard to make out what was being said behind the door. But I do remember the sound of the footsteps as they're now growing quieter. Less than 30 seconds later, I hear the sound of a car start up, and then just a few moments after that, things grow silent, with only the sounds of the rain hitting the roof above. I let out a small breath of relief, but I was still sweating as I then reached for my phone and called my husband. He's absolutely caught off by surprise, and I'm asking him where he was, since it seemed he was running late. He tells me he was helping out an elderly couple, but was now just about to turn the corner to enter our long driveway. He did tell me that he saw a black unmarked SUV drive past him in a hurry, and he asked if I knew who it might have been. I was breathing so heavily and hyperventilating like crazy that I struggled to get the necessary description out to him that the house was just broken into by a couple of burglars. Anyways, my husband, who was still dressed up as Santa Claus, called the cops for me, and once they arrived, I was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. Unfortunately, it does suck to inform you all that those two who broke into my home have, since to this day, never been caught.